Good afternoon, welcome back to Osijek after looking at some of those resplendent scenes of this wonderful place, the fourth biggest city in Croatia itself, and those pictures of the surrounding areas. It's absolutely gorgeous in this part of Croatia. Temperatures outside as well, glorious sunshine, clear blue skies, and hovering around 27 degrees Celsius. But that's outside, now inside for this final. So earlier today, our 50-metre rifle, 3 positions men, finished up with John Hegg of Norway taking the gold medal. We have 2 more quota places available in this final that's due to start local time at 5 p.m. here in Osijek, Croatia. It's just coming up to 4:49 local time, so 11 minutes before our first shot, and there is the Croatian flag. I always think of Goran Ivanisevic, the tennis player, and I always think of Luka Modric every single time I see that. Both athletes who I've looked up to, and certainly now in the world of shooting as well. Milan Maricic of Croatia is someone to look up to. He took a quota place, qualified 11th earlier today. Otherwise, just looking now at some of the women who are coming up in this 3 positions final, and if they have taken quota places where that's been awarded. So just looking at Emily Jerzy there, who took that silver medal in the Olympic qualifier in Rio. I was commentator for that final, and it was a great performance by her. And here are the athletes lining up from firing point A right through to firing point H. This is the 50-metre rifle 3-position women's final here at the European Shooting Championships for 25-metre, 50-metre and 300 metres. So our Chief Range Officer, Petar Plavčić of Croatia, has just announced that it's now the preparation and sighting time for athletes, and this is just a chance for them to settle into this finals hall after qualification earlier today. Chiara Leone of Switzerland topping the qualification with 594, 3 points in front of Jerzy, also of Switzerland, and then Jeanette Justad tied also on 591, and then some other familiar names on 590 right the way through the qualification list. So this is how they line up from firing point A through to H. 2 athletes from Switzerland, 1 from Serbia, 1 from Poland, Norway, Czechia, and 2 athletes who are independent neutral athletes. So my name is Rory McAllister. Thank you very much for coming along. If you're joining us on YouTube, feel free to like the channel. You can also subscribe as well. That way you'll get all of our future broadcasts and you'll get notifications of when they're coming up. So in terms of the quota places then, just to go over that. So firing points A, B, C and G are the ones who are eligible for the 2 quota places. So Chiara Leone of Switzerland is eligible for a quota place. Sanja Vukašinović of Serbia is also eligible. Valentina Kovalenko, who's an independent neutral athlete, is also eligible, as is Daria Čupris, who's on firing point G, who's also an independent neutral athlete. So here's Chiara Leone. Bit of pressure on her today on firing point A. I'm sure she'll be very keen to try and bag that quota place and even try and get a medal as well. So looking now at firing point H, and that was Emily Jerzy, silver medalist in Rio last month. Seems like an age away now. But we get ever closer to the Paris Olympic Games every day. The opening ceremony, 26th of July. So in just under 2 months' time, the Paris Olympic Games will officially open once the shooting programme gets going. It's one of the longest in terms of the Olympic programme. Athletics is one of the others that has quite a long programme due to the amount of events. And once again we'll see shooting sport displayed for the world to see at the Olympic Games. So Sanja Vukasinovic, who's on firing point B, 26 years old. And was 5th place at the European Championships, as you're seeing on your screens. And now moving on to firing point C, Valentina Kovalenko, 20 years old. And here's Julia Pietrowska of Poland, now 22 years old, on firing point D. Not eligible for the quota place in this one, but I'm sure very much up for a medal. Now moving on to firing point E, representing Norway, this is Jeanette Justad. He took that gold medal at the final Olympic qualifier in Rio. Also took the gold medal in this event at the World Cup final in Doha last year in November. And this is Veronika Blachikova, 20 years old. Again, another young athlete in this final. And then just completing the lineup is Daria Chupris, an independent neutral athlete. And then finally, on firing point H, is Emily Yerzy, silver medalist in Rio. I was quite commentator for that final. It was a great performance that day from Emily. And there's the focused face of Chiara Leone. So Ivona Placic of Croatia is the announcer, and Chiara Leone is announced to the crowd.
On firing point B, representing Serbia, Sanja Vukasinovic.
And big cheers as well for Sanja Vukasinovic from Serbia. And Valentina Kovalenko, an independent neutral athlete in this final, 20 years old.
On firing point D, representing Poland, Julia Ewa Piotrowska.
So Julia Piotrowska of Poland, again popular whoops and claps from the crowd.
On firing point E, representing Norway, Jeanette Hegg-Delstad.
And Jeanette Justad gets a big cheer from the Norwegian crowd and supporters and the rest of the team. There's so many that have gathered here for this 3P finals. Great to see. And Veronika Blachikova.
On firing point G, neutral individual athlete, Daria Kupris.
And Daria Kupris, independent neutral athlete.
And on firing point H, representing Switzerland, Emily Yaegi.
And Emily Yerzy, I think she could do very well today in this final. I certainly think Emily's capable of a medal.
The member in charge of this final is Ms. Biser Kaberbeck from Croatia.
So one of the nicest people in shooting. There's Biserka Verbek of Croatia.
And the chief range officer for this final is Mr. Petar Placic from Croatia.
And Petar Placic is the chief range officer.
Take your position.
Once again, standing up and almost looking like he was going to give us another song there. It happened earlier on today, but I think he's just sticking with giving out the announcements. So a packed finals hall here in Osijek, and that's it. Do wave to the crowd and wave to the camera. It's always nice to see your reactions. So wherever you're watching around the world, do leave your thoughts in the comments. Let us know where you are watching, and feel free to like and subscribe to the ESC video stream channel on YouTube. That way you'll be notified of all the upcoming broadcasts. Now, I've just seen off camera as well, Nina Kristen, the Olympic champion at 3P, just arrived into the crowd to support the two Swiss athletes in this final. And Nina not only took that gold medal at Tokyo, and I was there for that myself, but also a bronze medal in the 10 metres.
For the first competition safe,
Jeanette Justad was 4th in that 3P final in Tokyo and 4th in the 10 metres as well, narrowly missing out on a medal twice. So here we go, we're underway. .200 seconds loaded to the clock. 10.9 is the highest score you can reach in an individual shot, and Yeji opens with a 10.8. And hopefully she's just checking up on the qualification scores. Blažičková with a great shot, 10.8. And the kneeling position is where most rifle shooters start their careers. Most of them having come through the junior ranks, some still in the junior positions as they're 21 or under. Jeanette Justad was certainly a prolific prospect as a junior and has really put our authority onto the world stage. And now shooting here once again in the European Shooting Championship. So we've got 3 series of 5 shots in the kneeling position. So 2 more series of 5 to come up after this one, as Yeji and Chuplis complete their first series. Then we have a 7-minute changeover where the athletes move to the prone position, and that's where you get the most stability, the highest scores. That's what tends to happen, and the final really starts to take shape. 3 series of 5 shots in the prone position, and then a 9-minute changeover as we move to standing, and that's when it gets really interesting, because by then the final is 35-40 minutes in, and it's a long and grueling day. It's quite hot in the finals hall here in this huge marquee that we're in, but they've done a great job with the decoration and the branding. It's looking great here in Osijek. So Kovalenko is the last to complete this series and finishes up with a 10. So Chief Range Officer calls stop, and now we'll have our first scoreboard of this final. And Blažičková with a great series of 52.7. Certainly if you scored anything over 53, you'd well be expected to be leading a competition, but that's high enough, 52.7. So now we're into the next series of 5 shots. This will take us to 10 shots in the kneeling position. Breath control and stability and getting a clear view of the target is all essential in this stage of a 3P final. 10.8 from Kovalenko. That's a great shot. Justad also with a 10.8. You just see Chiara Leone there, just intake of breath, that breath control that's been so rehearsed in training. And then just try and settle into the shot to get the highest score possible. And just take notice of the height and position of some of the sights as well, because those will change as the 3P final goes on. Just because of the different positions and where your face and head is in relation to the rifle. And do bear in mind that over the distance of 50 metres, the bullseye down at the other end, 10.4 millimetres. It almost sounds impossible, doesn't it? So a great series from Chiara Leone, 52.6. Looks like it's enough to push her up to the top and be leading this competition. So interesting developments. The scoreboard has switched around quite a bit. Blachikova, who was leading, goes all the way down to 8th place. That's incredible. It just shows you how things can change so quickly, not only in shooting but also in a 3P final like this. Chiara Leone takes the lead with a margin of 0.7 over Chupri, who's 0.3 behind in third. So Chiara Leone with by far and away the highest score in that last series, 52.6. She is eligible for a quota place today, as is Sanja Vukasinovic of Serbia. Valentina Kovalenko is also eligible for a quota place, and Daria Chupri. It's great to see such a busy finals hall as well. There's even people standing up at the back as all the seats are taken. 10.9 from Blachikova. Well, that's more like it. And I wonder what must be going through her mind, having led the competition in first place, then dropping all the way down to 8th. A great final shot from Chupri to complete the series, a 10.9. Seeing 10.9s in the kneeling position, I think we're going to see a lot more when it comes to prone. But bear in mind, Chupri is only 16 years old. I wonder what the Olympic champion thinks, Nina Kristin of Switzerland. I remember talking to Nina. I said, when it gets to Paris, you know, you're there as defending Olympic champion, and she said, well, even if I don't win and I don't become Olympic champion again, you're still an Olympic champion because of her achievements in Tokyo. And I thought, well, yeah, that's a very fair way of wording it, and she's right. So it's just Kovalenko and Justad now to finish. 40 seconds on the clock. And Justad, it's not unusual for Jeanette to take her time. Last shot was a 10.5.
7 minutes.
And actually is in 5th position, the Norwegian. So a 7-minute changeover time now as we move to prone. And Chiara Leone was leading the competition. Now in second place, just 0.3 behind Chupri, who's an individual neutral athlete.
After the 3 series in
And a very interesting scoreboard because those differences are so close. Apart maybe from down in 8th place, that 1.1 gap between 8th and 7th. But the rest of the scoreboard, this is still anybody's final. And that's where the excitement starts to build.
currently 5th, Delstadt on the 6th place.
So the athletes now go over to their boxes and will start to make adjustments to their suits and the zips and the prone straps on their backs, and also grab the multi-tool as well and make all sorts of adjustments, not only to the sights but also to the butt of the rifle.
After that, they will be shooting
And again, this is a well-drilled process. You can see Jeanette Justad there with the Allen key. And although 7 minutes sounds like a lot of time, you've got quite a lot to achieve in that time because you want to try and get down into the prone position to actually take as many practice shots as you can. And then you also want to make sure you don't burn out too quickly in the practice shots and not achieve the higher scores when it actually counts. There's our wonderful mascot. I had a photo with the mascot earlier. I mean, it's such fun, isn't it, having mascots running around. It just brings a lightness to a competition like this. And amazing to think that the eldest competitor in this final is 26 years old. And that's Sanja Vukasinovic of Serbia. So there's the multi-tool. So you put the butt of the rifle in because of the different position, now moving to prone, and then just tighten it up and make sure everything's in place. For a minute there, it wasn't quite in and turning, but there we are. Peep sight goes on the end, and a lot lower than it was in the kneeling position as well because of your body position. And I think there's something about the prone position as well that's so sort of iconic, I think, when it comes to rifle shooting. I just wonder if the mascot perhaps is trying to find the way to the canteen to go and get some food. So 4 minutes to go. And now all athletes down on the mat. And just some adjustments of the blinder from Emily Yerzy just before she settles in along with the rest of the athletes to try and hit their best scores in this prone position. There's Enrico Friedemann, who is Chiara Leone's coach. A smooth and suave guy. A wink to camera just shows the confidence. Here's Dragan Donovic, who's the Serbian coach. We're going to get a smile, Dragan? Not this time. And this is Nadezhda Shirova. Actually, Shireva, should I say? Shireva. And Pavel Pietruk, very prolific shooter in his own right. He's the coach for Poland today. There's Andrea Arstovic from Serbia. Nice to see when the rest of the team turn up. And there's Espen Knutsen of Norway. He's Jeanette Justad's coach today. And Lubos Opelka, who's making his second appearance in the finals hall today, along with Espen Knutsen. They both had representatives and athletes in the first 3P final earlier today in the men's final. And Voga Solbal is the coach for Daria Chupris. And then finally, Anik Marge. He's the coach for Emily Yeji. And a quick chat as well with Annick before the final. She seemed in good spirits. So will that translate now into a medal? So if you're just joining us, welcome along. This is the 50-metre rifle 3-position women's final, live for you here on the ESC video stream channel. Do like the channel, do subscribe as well. That way you get all of our future broadcasts. Here's just a closer look at some of the world rankings. Shona McIntosh hasn't made the trip out to Croatia, but very much has her sights set on Châteauroux when we go to Paris for the Olympic Games. When we end up in Châteauroux, of course, with it being under the umbrella of the Paris Olympics. So make no mistake, the world number 1 may be missing from this final, but we still have a world-class field for you. I just wonder what Emily Yeji is capable of today. She had such a brilliant performance in Rio at the Olympic qualifying competition a short time ago. Silver medalist there. She's also a bronze medalist at the World Championships in 3P as a junior. And a gold medalist at the ISSF
30 seconds.
Junior World Cup in Seoul as well. So certainly been on the podium before. Chief Range Officer called for the 30 seconds a second ago, just to remind the athletes that we're about to get underway now with the prone phase of this final. And just slightly easier on the athletes because the standing position's coming up, and these rifles do weigh up to 8 kilos. 5.6mm ammunition. And staring down to the target 50 metres away, which is 10.4mm in terms of the bullseye. There's Mr. Alexander Ratner, who is the European Shooting Confederation president. Who's going to take an early grasp in this? Well, Petrovska with a 10.8. Just 0.1 away from the perfect score of a 10.9. So coming into this prone position, the highest score of the last series in kneeling was Daria Chupri with a 51.7. And this scoreboard has been changing quite a bit compared to the men's final that was fairly static for most of it in terms of the scoreboard. And it's great to see so many people turning up to enjoy this final and share the love of the shooting sport. .9 from Vukashinovic of Serbia. Great shot. And we did say a short time ago we're bound to see 10.9s in the prone position, and also one from Chiara Leone of Switzerland as well. And this is where towards the end of this first series in the prone position, as we look at terrific shots of Jeanette Justad, and how still she is. It almost looks like a still shot.
Stop.
And you'd be forgiven for thinking that the camera actually froze there for a moment, but just shows how still the athletes can be.
0.7 points difference.
For the next competition series.
So Chupri still leads. Now the total's 207.3, 0.7 in front of Chiara Leone, and another 0.7 gap between second and third. Otherwise fairly close. with 2 athletes tied for 4th. 6th, 7th, and 8th, hardly anything between them. And now we move into the second series of 5, and this is really where you've got to try and establish your final. And what I mean by that is make use of the prone position as much as possible with that extra stability. And try and get as many high scores as you can to try and give you an edge going into this standing phase of the final, because there's certain athletes that are so strong in the standing position, such as Jeanette Gistad of Norway. Another 10.9 from Chiara Leone. You see Jeanette just looking off to the side there to get a fresh look back at the target. Someone will wonder what's going through the mind of Dragan Donovic at the moment. Just bearing in mind that Vukašinović is actually in 8th place. There's John Hegg. He was a gold medalist earlier today in the 3P final. Henrik Larsson to his right, or our left as we look. There wasn't a medal for Henrik today, but it was a medal for Norway in the terms of a gold for John Hegg. That's a terrific final shot from Vukašinović. In terms of trying to stay in the middle part of this scoreboard with a 10.5. And a great final shot from Pachakova as well. So a narrow gap at the top, and after 25 shots, it just shows you how close shooting is at this level. Because you think with all the possibilities and the decimal scoring, how on earth can 2 athletes even be just 0.1 apart? But that's how it rolls. And now we move into the final 5 shots of the prone position. Petrotska follows that 10.8 with a 10.5. Emily Yergi, meanwhile, down at the other end on a 10.8. And you just see Chiara Leone just making a few adjustments, and you see that as well in the prone position, because you've got to be as comfortable as possible. You've got to be able to control your breathing as best you can. Chiara Leone has finished the final phase of this final with a 10.7. So Chief Range Officer calls stop and unload. And that concludes the prone position in this final. So now a 9-minute changeover in sighting time. And it's Chiara Leone of Switzerland who leads, also with Emily Yergi, also of Switzerland, in second place. So there's a change after 25 shots. This is after the prone position. So Leone has a gap of 0.3 at the top, and then a 1.9 gap between second and third. And then look at some of those other margins and differences. So close. Jeanette Justad down tied in 7th place, alongside Vuka Shinovic. And will the standing position in this final save Jeanette's fortunes? She's normally quite strong in the standing position, and the last series of 51.2. Emily Yergi, meanwhile, though, 52.9 that last prone series. And certainly with a performance like that, that's exactly how you should try and take advantage of the prone position, with so much more stability than what's coming up in the standing position, as the athletes now make more adjustments to their rifles and get ready. Once again, 9 minutes sounds like a long time, but when you're out there in front of the crowd, you've got the pressure of this final. If your heart rate starts to go, then you've got to remain in control. So the rifle stands come out for this one, because it's the standing position. And the rules are that the rifle stand must be no higher than your shoulder. So that's why you'll see the likes of Jeanette Justad's rifle rest higher than everybody else's. She's clearly the tallest member in this final. Amazing to think as well, the eldest competitor, 26 years old. That's Sanja Vukašević of Serbia. Shows you how young shooting is becoming, and even since I started working professionally in shooting in 2017, I've seen such a change, and particularly with the ages in certain competitions. So a closer look at the competition leader, Chiara Leone, who is eligible for a quota place in this final, and I'm sure would also like to try and take that with a medal as well. 4 of the athletes in this final eligible for those 2 quota places. Chiara Leone of Switzerland is eligible, as is Sanjay Vukašević, who's on firing point B. Also Valentina Kovalenko, who's an individual neutral athlete. And then the final athlete eligible for the quota place on firing point G, which is Daria Chupris. So you see some of the athletes now just getting settled into the standing position, checking their feet position and their posture. This is where balance really comes into it, after making those changes to the rifle, adjusting the rifle butt, also the sights, peep sight on the end, and cheek plate as well. So just under 5 minutes to go now to continue this 3P final, and it's certainly shaping up to be an interesting conclusion. This is where it gets tough. Those rifles weigh up to 8 kilos, but you do have the rifle rest and stand, and that can be no higher than your shoulder. So Petroska, fairly decent shooting. Shot 29, not so good in the 9 ring, but is in 3rd position at the moment. And pressure really is off Jeanette Justad already with quota places. So many medals already over the last 12 months. I mean, sure, she'd like a medal here today, but she's not eligible for the quota place, and is currently in 7th position. The prone position maybe not quite as strong as Jeanette would have liked, but this standing phase of the final could very much save her fortunes here. And we've got a packed final halls here in Osijek in our temporary setup. We've got a huge marquee here. And the decoration and branding, and it's looking great underneath the LED lights. The temperatures have been a bit hot because it's about 27 degrees outside. So the athletes will certainly be feeling that here on the finals hall and out there on the field of play. And of course you want to try and keep your perspiration down, because the more you sweat in the underlayers, and then that goes through to your shooting suit, and it can make things soft, or certainly softer than they were at the beginning when you're in the kneeling position. Of course you're after as much stability as possible. So Chiara Leone, what does this final have in store for her? Eligible for a quota place. Will it be a medal today? A silver medalist at the World Cup in Cairo earlier this year in the 3 positions. And there was that bronze medal as well at the Olympic qualifier in Rio a few months ago now. So it's been a pretty good year for Chiara Leone. So Petrovska, 22 years old, representing Poland. Another athlete who is not eligible for a quota place in this final. And once this final is completed, well, that will be 4 quota places issued, with only another 4 to go. So there are the many medals of Jeanette Hegg Justad of Norway. And just narrowly missed out on a Tokyo Olympic medal in both the 3P and the 4 and the 10 metre final. She was 4th in both of the finals, and who knows what will happen this summer at the Paris Olympic Games. And it's been an interesting final for Blachvikova, because she was leading the final at one point and then dropped down to 8th place, and has managed to recover up to 5th place at the moment as it stands. So Chief Range Officer gives the 30-second command. We're nearly ready to get underway here in Osijek for the final phase of this 3P final, the standing position. This is when things get tough, things get grueling, and it just becomes all the more difficult compared to the prone position. We're expecting now scores to come in the 9 ring, possibly even dropping into the 8. And who will take command of this final? And who will end up victorious? There's Robert Fenešuk of Slovenia, who's the technical delegate of this competition. He's off to the right of your picture there, alongside Mateus from Sius. And here we go, 4 minutes on the clock. Let's go. So it'd be amazing if we get a 10.9 at this stage of the final. All the shots so far in the 10 ring. Justad still to take her first shot. Does so and just manages to creep into the 10s with that 10.1. 10.9 from Blatchikova. We did say, well, it could happen. And that's an amazing shot at this stage of the final. The perfect shot of a 10.9 when you consider that this final has already been going for 35 minutes. And some flirting going on in the crowd. So some shots now dropping into the mid-9s. And bear in mind, there's only 2 series of 5 shots in the standing position. And once we get to 40 shots, 2 athletes will be eliminated at once. 8th and 7th place will leave us. So Dupree is finished. Final shot was an 8.9. And some pretty decent grouping to begin with, but then just off to the left with that final shot. So hard at this stage of a 3 positions final. I just wonder what's going through the mind of Jeanette Justad. It's always hard to read her face, but has she given up, perhaps? .8 from Petrovska. Great shot. Really good at this stage. Very impressive. So Jeanette Justad now trying to get another shot in the 10 ring. She had a 10.1 as her first shot in the standing position. Normally is quite strong, taking her time. Still has 1 minute left on the shot clock. And takes the shot, and it's another 10.1. So Jeanette Justad top and tails that first series of 5 shots in the standing position. It was a 10.1 to open up with, and a 10.1 to conclude. Meanwhile, Chiara Leone of Switzerland now 2.8 in front of Emily Yerzy. And is this final starting to take shape in terms of the medalists? 4 athletes eligible for the quota places, 2 quota places available for this final. And we now have another 5 shots in the standing position to take us to 40 shots when we have our first eliminations, and 8th and 7th place will leave us. So this is it. Fortunes and futures are made at this stage of a 3P final. Who will stay and who will go? Great shot from Emily Yerzy. 10.7. Another 10.7. That's from Dupree. Jeanette Justad with that 9.8. Moves down to 8th place. You just see her there in the middle of the field of play, just towering over the other athletes. So a great second shot from Dupree as well, 10.7. At this stage of the final, world class. 7.9 though from Dupree, so just shows how it can change so quickly. It's not even showing on your graphic because it's outside the 8 ring. That's seriously going to put a dent in her fortunes for this final. Justad with a great recovery, a 10.8. That's more like what Jeanette is made of. It's elevated her up to 5th place. So we're edging now ever closer to the first eliminations. 8th and 7th place will be leaving us. And Chupri with a 9.6. So Gistad once again will be last to finish. 90 seconds left. Well, I think she will fire within 1 minute to go. Last shot was a 10.5. And the final shot is a 10.6, so slightly better, and Jeanette Gistad has changed her fortunes in this final. She was down in 8th place, but she's raised up to 5th. It does mean we have our first eliminations. And in 8th place, so an individual neutral athlete on firing point C is Valentina Kovalenko. And the 20-year-old leaves this final.
And the 7th place, representing Serbia, Sanja Vukašinović.
And Sanja Vukašinović of Serbia is next to leave, as the mascot drums up support and clapping from the crowd. So the 26-year-old, who's the eldest in this final, amazing really to think that at 26 years old, you're the oldest competitor in a 3P final. But that's the way shooting's going. So, Chiara Leone of Switzerland has a sizable lead. And has been shooting so well, coming out of the prone position into the standing. And also now is awarded that quota place.
For the next competition shot, low.
I'm just wondering whether or not that is indeed correct. I'm just checking my notes here. So indeed, yes, Chiara Leone takes the quota place, and as does Daria Chupri, who is an individual neutral athlete.
Stop.
So our next elimination now in 6th place. And Daria Chupri leaves this final with a quota place and 6th place in this European Shooting Championship final.
Currently in the 1st place is Chiara Leone, followed by Aegi Emily.
For the next competition shot, low.
So one quota place awarded there, and the other awarded to Chiara Leone of Switzerland. And you have to say, really, is it job done for Chiara Leone? What did she come here for? Perhaps you'd have to say the quota place first, and a medal would be a bonus. It's even looking like it could be gold for the Swiss shooter. Great couple of shots there, 10.7s, just flying in. Another 10.5 from Emily Yergi, and it means 5th place is confirmed. And Veronika Blachikova, who's 20 years old, representing Czech Republic, or Czechia as it's more modernly called, leaves in 5th place.
For the next competition shot, low.
Now, Jeanette Gistad has a bit of work here to do to try and get into the medal position. She's 1.7 behind. Is it possible to catch that up over a single shot? It's looking tough when you consider how the others have been shooting. Meanwhile, Chiara Leone still leads, and there's a gap of 1.7 now between 1st and 2nd. So even that 9.2 from Piotrowska is not enough to save Jeanette Justad this time. Finishes outside the medal positions in 4th place, exactly where she finished in the Tokyo final in the 3P. It's been a great 12 months though so far for Jeanette Justad in the run-up and the road to Paris. And she takes a high five from the mascot, who then runs off. I wonder, is he going back to the canteen? I need to check if it's a he or a she, actually. They might be just running off for some food or a drink. But here we go, the final stages and the medal stages now of this final. Piotrowska with a 10.1 and 8.8 from Yeji. I did say at the beginning of the final I was expecting things from Emily and expecting a medal, and she's gone and done it. And by the narrowest of margins in the bronze medal position, she finished just 0.1 behind Piotrowska of Poland. And they're on their feet, they're standing. And Emily Yeji, and I saw Christoph Durr of the Swiss team with the whistling. And a massive round of applause for Emily Yeji, who was certainly my tip for a medal before this final began. I did think Chiara Leone would have a strong final as well, and has done so. Now Piotrowska 3.8 behind with 1 shot to go. Here's Piotrowska of Poland, destined for a silver medal. Will it be all change? What drama awaits us in this final shot, unless we go to a shoot-off? And an 8.9 from Chiara Leone, but it doesn't matter, it's all over. Not only does she have the quota place, she's also got the gold medal, and the Swiss team are on their feet as well. You can see Christoph Durr there leading the charge, finger in the air, and Chiara Leone is absolutely delighted with that fist pump to show how happy she is, not only taking the gold medal, but also that quota place as well. And I think that's job done in terms of Chiara Leone's performance. She came here surely with her sights set on the quota place, and has also gone away with a gold medal. So Julia Piotrowska of Poland, what a performance. And Poland's first medal this afternoon, and it's a silver. So the first of 2 medals for Switzerland. Emily Yeji, only 15 years old, and a bronze medalist here on the European stage.
The silver medalist representing Poland, Julia Ewa Piotrowska.
And Julia Piotrowska of Poland is the silver medalist in what was a very dramatic 3P final. But what a day for the Swiss team. And massive cheers go up for the Swiss team. And the achievements of Chiara Leone, 25 years old, a gold medalist here on the European stage, and with that quota place as well. What a day for Switzerland. 2 medals in 1 final, a bronze and a gold, and Poland with the silver. So as we just look back now on some of the moments from that 3P final, and there's the congratulations between Chiara Leone and the silver medalist Piotrowska.
Ladies and gentlemen, the award ceremony for the 50 meter for 3 positions women event will take place.
So that's how it finished. Chiara Leone of Switzerland with the gold medal and that valuable quota place. Piotrowska of Poland with the silver, and Yeji of Switzerland taking the second medal for Switzerland with the bronze. And just a note of that other quota place awarded to Daria Chupri, who's an individual neutral athlete. That concludes our coverage for today. We'll see you tomorrow. Our first final is at 11:15 local time. That's the 50-metre rifle 3 positions duet final. Then at 2 p.m, 25-metre pistol women. And finally 6 p.m. tomorrow night, 25-metre rapid fire men's. One of my favourites. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you tomorrow.